Turn on the television set, you hear the good news that home prices are on the rise. Then you flip the channel and you find out that home prices are spiraling downward. What is the truth? How are they coming up with these numbers? Stick around, we're gonna get into that today. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is your Central Maine realtor, Nick Isgro with eXp Realty. And today, as I just said at the beginning, I wanna get into this scenario that we're seeing. We're seeing headlines coming out that the home prices are declining on a national scale. We're seeing things that home prices may be rising as we look particularly here in the local Maine media news. What's really going on? How do we come up with those numbers? I want to break down the data sets and look at it both on that national level, tell you how we get to those numbers, and then get right into the meat and potatoes of what's happening here in Central Maine. Now, before I do that, I want to welcome you here to the channel. If you've never been here before, we cover all things real estate here in the state of Maine, but particularly right here in the Central Maine market. Now, if that is of interest to you or adds value to your process in the buying and selling of homes, do me a favor. Go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, knock that little alarm bell. You'll be notified every time I put out new content. Now, as we get into this, let's just acknowledge on the front end that media coverage is definitely confusing on this topic. And that's why sometimes we see that home prices are going down, they're spiraling downward. Home prices are going up. Why is that? It's going to be a little bit of a ride here, partly because, as you know, this is a cyclical business. We look at a lot of seasonal trends, annual trends, and a couple of data sets we use are, one is year-over-year pricing index or a month-over-month pricing index. All right, now let's jump right in with the year-over-year index. If you're looking at the real estate business year-over-year, you're looking at prices, at least nationally speaking right now, and you're hearing them talk about a decline in home sale prices. What does that mean? They're using the year-over-year method, and that is looking at what's going on during, just say a month, June of 2023 versus June of 2022. Now, if you're using that year-over-year comparison, you are going to see a slight decline in home prices because 2022 was actually the highest year on record for home values ever in the industry. Now, why would we use year-over-year comparisons? Well, year-over-year is a great way to look at the long-term trends, what's going on in general over the long term. Is the market appreciating? Is the market depreciating? It's going to give you that long view of what's actually happening in the market. And so if you're using year-over-year, it can give you a good sense of what's happening with things like inventory and whatnot, because you're looking at season over season rather than month over month, where you're going to see a little bit more fluctuation there. All right, so if that's the case, why are we using month over month? Well, month over month is going to give you that nitty-gritty, in-the-moment snapshot, so you can get immediate results, immediate understanding of what is happening with current inventory, current pricing, make short-term adjustments, and make short-term decisions. If you're in the market right now and you want to know what's happening right now and you need to make a buy or sell decision right now, that month over month comparison is going to be very important because it's going to give you an idea of what's going to happen in the very, very near future and what has just happened in the very near past. Also very important. Now let's take these things together and talk about what's happening in the market overall and then get down to the numbers. I'm bringing up a chart here right now that's looking at the year-over-year numbers, and if we're looking at this, we can see that as we have, these are the national numbers, so we're not totally caught up, but year-over-year, we can see that April was a little bit lower than it was the year before. That would indicate slightly that potentially the next several months that we're going to enter year-over-year comparison are going to be slightly lower than they were the year before. Now, these are not drastic changes. You can see the numbers weren't like a big drop off or a market crash or anything like that. It's just a little bit of a decline from what was a historical peak in the market, and that would suggest that that's going to continue to happen over the next several months. Now, of course, if you work in the news media, that's going to generate some great troubling headlines to help you sell newspapers. They're going to say things like, home prices are falling, values face decline. What does this do? It leads consumers to believe that there's a cascading downward trend in the housing market that may not really be the case. That's why we bring up the month over month numbers. Taking a look at the month over month numbers here, not only can you see some seasonal trend cooking in where you're going to have some ups and some downs, but you can actually see month over month where there's been increase, and then some decrease. The market has actually already bottomed out using the month over month analysis, and we are trending back upwards, which would suggest that home prices over the next couple of months are going to continue to rise from where they are right now. Perhaps slightly lower than where they were a year ago, but from where they are today, you might actually be buying in the bottom of a market and the prices could continue to appreciate over the next several months. And that is exactly what both sets of data would probably suggest. Now, all right, I know you're sitting there and you're like, Nick, this is great, and we appreciate the general analysis of what's going on in the housing market across the country. What is actually happening right here in Kennebec County? That's what's going to be important. That's what's happening, really this core of the Central Maine market. I want to bring this up and show you what's happening right here in Central Maine so you have a good idea and understanding of whether we look over year or month over month, you're going to see a very interesting trend that's going to tell you a lot about why what we say in real estate is true. It's all local. All right, bringing this up here, this is a chart of the average sale price here in Kennebec County. It gets from May of 2022 all the way to May of 2023. And there's a few things I want to take note here. One is, if I use the year-over-year comparison here in Central Maine, the average sale price was higher this year, 2023, in May than it was May of 2022. So this is actually bucking the national trend. And when we talk about local inventory numbers, we talk about what's happening in the local market, this is why it's so important to break that out. Here in Central Maine, we are seeing reversal of that trend that we saw on the national scale. Here in Central Maine, we're seeing year-over-year numbers. The numbers are up. Now let's look month over month what's happening here. Even month over month, we're seeing what we saw on that month over month chart that we saw before. We can see where the numbers did follow a trend downward for a little bit in the winter, and now we're continuing to work our way up. So month over month, there's an increase there as well. So if you are here in the Central Maine market, the takeaway for this is that year over year and month over month, we are on the increase. Prices continue to appreciate. A lot of that, as I always say, driven by the low number of homes that are just in the inventory right now. You know, when you have less than a month of supply of inventory on the market, that's going to continue to drive this. We have a lot of buyers who are active in the market right now. And we're seeing, you know, sale to price ratio back to 100%. Sometimes things going over a list price. We're putting those offers in again. This chart here shows you exactly why that would be. So very quick video today, but I've been watching a lot of the news and we're seeing a lot of this, you know, housing market continues to decline, prices are down, and I wanted you to see why that would actually be technically true if you're using on a national scale that year-over-year comparison. Not true if you're using the month over month. And here in Central Maine, not true at all. Actually, the prices are up regardless of which data set you use. I hope you found that helpful. Would love to hear from you. If you are in the market, if you've been in the market, maybe you've been sitting on the sidelines just waiting to see what the scenario is going to do, how it plays out, go ahead, drop a comment below. Would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and as always, your predictions. Of course, as always, I thank each and every one of you for sticking around to the end of this video, and until the next one, I'll see you next time.